I was 11 the day my mouth outran my good sense. I was holding a heavy fountain pen in both hands, in a room where even the air felt expensive, when the desk lamp hit the gold on Holden Cross's hand, and I said it without breaks, that ring. My mom has the same one. His keyboard stopped mid-click. He turned like a safe dial, finding a notch, cool eyes landing on me. What did you say? Not curiosity so much as warning. And right then, I knew I'd tossed a rock at a glass tower, and the echo would follow us home. My mom, Marisol, was wiping a bookshelf the size of a bus I was supposed to be reading quietly. And there he was, the man whose name lit up airplanes and downtown towers, wearing a gold signet with an iron wolf biting a green stone. The same wolf I had seen in our kitchen, in a velvet box that lived between socks, with a rule taped to it. In my mother's voice, we do not talk about this outside. He said that is not possible, one of a kind, commissioned by my great-grandfather, symbol of our family. No other exists, his tone saying liar. Even as his mouth said facts, and when Mom rushed over and apologized for my imagination, he nodded once like a king, that it does not happen again, and the elevator carried us down in a silence so tight my ears rang. On the sidewalk she said, "No, sharp enough to slice paper. You will never bring up that ring to that man again. This is not about being right, June. This is about staying safe." And I wanted to promise, but anger burns through good intentions fast. Who would hurt us, I asked. And she said, powerful people, the kind who don't like surprises, you know what I mean. That night, I pulled down my grandfather's shoebox, old photos that smelled like attic dust, Sergeant Patrick Nolan in uniform looking too young to carry that much courage. Then another picture, Grandpa, outside a brick building, with a man I didn't know on the back, in blocky letters, Silas and me. First day at the depot, 1987, and on that man's right hand, even in the grain, the iron wolf. I didn't sleep. I kept saying the truth out loud to the ceiling, to hear how it sounded. The next morning, I put the velvet box and that photo in my backpack and rode the bus to the Riverside Historical Conservatory. The place with the lion statues and squeaky doors told the woman at the front that I thought the city forgot someone, and she raised one eyebrow, like, "We'll see," then led me to Mr. Lang in the back, where it smelled like book glue. He turned the ring under a loop, weighed it like it might bite, said. It looked very old and very specific, and not like something stamped by a machine last week, asked if he could make a few calls and hold it overnight for authentication, and I said yes. Even though my chest went tight, because sometimes you have to stop hiding something if you want it to survive. Here's what I didn't know then. I learned it later while I was handing history to a librarian. Holden took a private elevator under the old Cross Aero Works building to a vault with a wheel on the door, pulled boxes labeled August C. Private opened journals that smelled like cedar and dust and read a name that isn't in any brochure. Silas Marek entries that sounded like brotherhood, not payroll. June 12, 1929. Silas sees engines the way an artist sees a face. I bring money and ruthlessness. He brings genius and grace. September 3rd, 1929. 2 rings, twins, one for the fist, one for the mind, and then the ink goes cold. July 14th, 1932. The board forced my hand. Marek's name is removed, papers amended, legacy secured, and you could almost hear the blood he tried to write around. He drove to an old warehouse on Quarry Street with a chain orange with rust, inside a small office with a peeling city map and metal lockers, one label typed, Marek S. He pried it open, and dust breathed out like it had been holding its lungs for decades. Blueprints in a handwriting that looked like music notebooks, that turned math into machines. If you stared hard enough, a sealed affidavit with a notary stamp laying out in clean ink, the partnership and the patents, And those 2 rings as visible contract. Yeah, that happened. My phone rang that evening, a blocked number I answered because I was 11 and brave in that special way kids are. Mrs. Nolan, this is Holden Cross. I would like to meet with you and your daughter at your home if you'll allow it. There is something I need to return, and my mom went white to the knuckles. We expected threats. We got an apology at our cheap coffee table. A gray sweater instead of a silk suit, no chauffeur in sight. Just a cardboard box and a man who looked smaller without the armor of money. He set journals, blueprints, the affidavit, and a silver locket on the table, like they were heavy enough to dent wood. Then he faced me. You were right. June, and I was wrong. I called you a liar and treated your mother like she couldn't be trusted with her own truth. I'm sorry, and he told us the story without lipstick. August Cross built the company with Silas Marek when the board got nervous about bloodlines and parties, and who gets to stand next to the portrait. They forced Silas out. The official history was rewritten. Paper is cheap when people pay the price. Silas hid his work in the belly of the beast, because the safest place for a ghost is under the living. Years later, my grandfather found the box while working nights under a different name. He kept it safe. He kept the ring, he kept faith, and Holden said, the only thing you can really say when truth finally corners you. Tell it all of it. We'll rename the company, put Marek on the letterhead, calculate what the Marek estate is owed, and make restitution. I don't know if I keep my job. I know I sleep better. I laughed a little because relief can sound like that when it leaks out. You want to rename Cross Arrowworks to what? And he said, Marek and Cross first. The truth, then the order. And you could feel the phone lines across the city catching fire. His mother called him with ice in her voice. Burn the papers. Send that woman away. You will not strike our name from our buildings. He hung up on a dynasty, then called his lawyer, then called the board, then called Mr. Lang to set up authentication for the press. And the next morning the city woke to cameras outside our door, and a podium downtown, and a CEO saying words men like him don't usually say in public. My family benefited from theft. We erased a man who built this company with his mind and his hands. Today we stop erasing, and when he said our name into microphones, I felt the air go out of my body like a balloon. The messy truth showed up right on schedule. Half the city cheered, half snarled. The board moved to remove him by lunch. The stock wobbled like a drunk on a curb. Neighbors slipped notes under our door, gold digger and purple marker, from someone who never met our rent. An old man in the lobby hugged my mom and whispered about time somebody told the rich folks where their money came from. 2 truths can share an elevator and not look at each other. You know what I mean? That evening we ate jarred pasta under a kitchen light that made the wolf's green stone flicker. Mom stared at the ring like a key instead of a grenade and asked me like I was the adult, do we sue? Do we take the money and disappear? Do we hand it all to the museum so nobody can say we cashed in? And I said, maybe we do what Grandpa did, keep the truth intact until more people can see it. Because sometimes the best thing you can do with power is refuse to use it like they used it on you. 2 days later, Mr. Lang called the metallurgist, confirmed the age, and make a retired jeweler in Boston, remembered carving 2 iron wolves in 1929. And only 2, the paper ran a front page with both rings side by side. Same design, different hands. Mine chipped, his manicured like brothers, with different jobs. Holden came by again with no cameras, asked Mom to serve on the Marek Nolan Foundation. He was seeding by dissolving the Cross Family Trust. Said we've been cashing IOUs for a century. We never planned to pay, help me pay some of them. Mom cried into a dish towel, and then laughed into the same towel because cleaning up makes room for both. People ask if I forgave him. Forgiveness is a big word that gets stuck in your teeth. He didn't ask for it. He asked me to keep holding him to the truth. The board fired him. A week later, he lost a title and found a spine. Maybe both things can be true. He worked the rebrand from the outside while lawyers and accountants did math. I don't understand. And the wolf still glints the same in our kitchen as it did under his lamp, which tells me metal doesn't care whose finger it sits on, people do. So here's where I leave you, not with a fairy tale, but a living thing. The foundation opened in a tiny storefront. We funded kids who build machines from scrap and music from static. Our mailbox holds hate and love. In equal parts, a neighbor said, a child shouldn't meddle in grown-up business. Another kid mailed a crayon drawing of an iron wolf with a heart in its teeth and wrote, "Thank you for telling the truth." I taped it to the fridge and Holden keeps his ring in a case at the conservatory. Next to ours tells rooms full of important people that a little girl from the South Side made him choose between legacy and honesty cost him a job and gave him a life. He's not a hero in my story. He's a man who did the right thing after his family did the wrong thing for a long time. Sometimes that has to be enough. Sometimes it isn't. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you call that justice or just a pretty band-aid? Would you take the restitution and build the foundation or push for criminal charges, no matter what it does to the workers and the city? Have you seen someone get erased because of their last name or their neighborhood? And did anyone set the record straight? Drop your take, share your story. And if you want more from the side of the table, where truth brings its own chair, hit like and subscribe.